I hear you have a question.
I do have a question.
All right, fire away.
Yeah. Yeah. So I just gave birth to my first child 3 weeks ago, and I have a very unusual challenge that has to do with my family of origin. So last year, my little brother came out as a woman, and he's 16 years younger than me. So I kind of helped raise him. So I really, really love him like he's my own. And I'm the only one in the family that doesn't call him by his new name and pronouns. And honestly, I don't really call him anything. I just like use workarounds to not offend him or, you know, lie to him as per your advice. So he thinks he's going to be called Auntie. And I'm not planning on lying to my daughter about gender. So how do I tell him that he's going to be uncle without blowing up my relationship with him and maybe everybody in my family? And how do I protect my daughter from her ideologically addled relatives?
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess we're going to start out with an easy question, are we? Okay, let me ask you a question. Why have you decided to take the stance that you're taking? Like you said that you love your brother, and I'm not questioning that. And an argument could be made, and people will make this, that if you loved him, you would go along with what he is acting out. But you've decided that you're not going to do that. And so why have you done that?
My intuition and you, honestly. Like, I think I, have been watching enough of your videos and everything that I'm starting to see things clearly, and I don't think it's right. I don't think what he's doing is right.
Okay, how do you know you're seeing things clearly? Like what makes you inclined to believe that?
I think because it's the only thing that feels right. I mean, I think if you took who I was 5 or 10 years ago and pasted it over this situation, I might still have the same reaction. I might be a little more willing to just kind of go with it. I think I'd be more willing to fall for the, he's going to hurt himself if I don't affirm.
Yeah. That's nonsense. That's nonsense. Eh? And okay, so let me address this issue now that you've told me that. So what I would say to you is that the truth is a medium to long-term game. Right? So it's the best strategy because it falls in accordance with reality. But you can game reality in the short term, which is why people lie and why they go along with false consensus and why they try to gather things for themselves that they don't deserve. But that doesn't work in the medium to long run. It's a very bad strategy. And so I would say that your best bet for maintaining your relationship with your brother over the long run, and that could be decades, and what would also be in his best interest is to stick to the truth. Now, you're going to pay a price for that in the short term, right? You know that. The price is going to be the resistance you're going to get from everybody who's going along with him. They'll be annoyed at you because your stance runs contrary to theirs, and there'll be flack from him as well. But this is where you make a decision of conscience and you decide whether you're going to stick to what you believe to be right, come hell or high water, in the hopes that that's the best strategy, all things considered, over the longest period of time. That's what faith in the truth is. So I could define it. Faith in the truth is the belief that whatever happens when you tell the truth is the best thing that could happen, regardless of how it looks to you in the moment and maybe to others. Now, the alternative would be faith in falsehood. You could say, well, I'll go along with the illusion. That'll make everyone happy, and apparently, and it'll reduce conflict, and that's the best pathway. You don't have any evidence, so to speak, for either of those because you don't know how it's going to play out. And so you have to decide what you're going to stake yourself on. And then you have to pay the price. You're going to pay a price of one form or another. So.
Yeah, Denise, can I take a stab at this?
Please, yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for your call. That's a heavy topic. I think from my perspective, if that was happening to me, especially after having a baby, your baby's so important that you want to get everything right because you're going to get a number of things wrong anyway, right? And I think the political landscape is also changing enough that this might only be a problem for another year or two. That's the hope anyway, because I think people are realizing that that is a lie and that a bunch of people got brainwashed. And so I think maybe, hopefully, the problems with your family would resolve because of the political changes in the next couple of years anyway. But what should be your number one priority right now is teaching your daughter what's true and what's false. And that is objectively not true. And unfortunately, it's confused a number of people, which is just heartbreaking and terrible. And hopefully it'll resolve. And I think it's already resolving, which is the positive thing. But going based on your intuition, especially as a new mom, it's so strong. And so I think what you're doing is definitely the right thing, saying no to that. It's a complicated decision, but I don't think you have an option. It'll just destroy your soul otherwise.
A huge part of what's fallen apart in the last year is all the lies that the gender-affirming care advocates have put forward as scientific data.
Yeah, thank goodness.
Yeah. The large-scale studies indicate with absolute clarity, as was inevitable, that there's no evidence whatsoever that gender-affirming care produces any improvement in any of the things it was supposed to magically cure, which is only to say that radical and often surgical and hormonal intervention in someone's life when they're depressed and anxious and confused.
And a teenager.
And a teenager.
Yeah.
Right, is somehow not helpful. What a shock.
Yeah. It's also ridiculous that this has happened with the mental health crisis that's been going on. Like, what, 1 in 5 people have a mental illness? How are you supposed to differentiate that from this trans phenomena?
Yeah, well, like you said, maybe we've run out the vast what?
I think
we've
so.
run out the foolishness on this, or at least some of it. We'll see. Yep.
We'll see.
Yep, we'll see. Right. Right. Just when you think things can't get any stupider, you know, they're likely to, but
yeah.
Yeah, well, good luck to her. Yeah, and that discussion of the truth was particularly relevant because it is important to understand that faith in the truth is a long-term game.
Yeah, and it is soul-crushing if you don't say what's true. Like, she's out of options, really. What is she going to do? Sacrifice her soul? Like, that's what it feels like, I think, when you know you're lying. Or you don't say something.
It isn't just your soul either. It would just, you corrupt the social environment by going along with the lies, right? That's why in the story of Abraham, you know, when Abraham is talking to the angels and to God about the potential destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, so the pathological city, God agrees to save the city if there's 10 people who still walk the righteous path. It starts with 50. That's Abraham's first request. And he bargains God down to 10. There's this very specific meaning to that. And the meaning is that if the society in question that's headed for perdition and destruction at its own hands is still together enough to allow 10 people to say the truth, there's hope. Right. And so you're supposed to be one of those 10. Mm-hmm. Right. Well, you're going to pay for that. But you pay for everything. So what's the point?